Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Literary Adda's another Adda with an author. Today we have Himanjali Shankar with us, the author of The Burnings, Mrs. C Remembers, Talking of Muskan, Game On, etc. But before we delve into a conversation with Himanjali, we would like to introduce our tiny little book club, Literary Adda, where we read as a community of authors, where we deep dive into many layers of text to understand and write.
Himanjali is a writer and editor, and her children's and YA books include the stupendous time-telling Superdog and Talking of Muskan, which was shortlisted for the Crossword Book Award. And then her novels for adults are Mrs. C Remembers, which won the FICCI Publishing Award for Upcoming Author in the year 2018. And Himanjali's young adult novel, The Lies We Tell, was shortlisted for the Neve Book Award in 2020. Himanjali is a mentor and editor for HWR Khozem Merchant Nonfiction Fellowship as well. And she has been an editor with several publishing houses for almost 2 decades. And we have been seeing, like this year, I think two of your books came out, right, Himanjali?
Yeah,
It's The
yeah,
Burnings and most recently a children's book, Game On.
yeah.
So I wanted to ask, like, you are both an editor and an author, but how did it start? Did you always know that you wanted to be an author or an editor?
Yeah. So I think, I'm sure these are all book club members. So mostly a lot of readers, a lot of us who are serious readers are from a younger age do often have the writerly ambitions. And I think that the same goes for me, that from the time I was in school, you're always doing these little writing stories and secretly harboring this wish to become a writer someday.
Yeah.
But yes, but it I kept like I was I can't say that I concretely did anything about it. I mean, I was writing always, but didn't have that confidence to share or to come out, or might have sent some here and there and got rejected as in the earlier. Uh, so it was only when I was so it was kind of separate. So I did have this wish to write, but it wasn't fully realized. And
Mm.
as a career path, I became an editor with I started first with Katha, which was they were used to do translations, and then I've always been in editing with a briefly did I was teaching also, but I've never really enjoyed teaching in the same way. I like being in publishing, and so
Publishing.
I've been an editor. Yeah, so editorial is where I was, and while I was in so my one of I was in Scholastic at the time when I wrote my first. So I think that's how also children's writing, possibly a little influenced by the fact that I was in Scholastic, where I was exposed to so much more of children's literature. And I remember going for a workshop, actually a writing workshop, where one of those where you get, there's some little uh, clue or hint given, like some where you're
Mm.
kind of made to write. And so as a result, that was a sort of spark that, okay, I want to write about this. I wrote some little line which I got stuck in my head. And then even because I was in Scholastic, the editors there were also very encouraging. So they were like, why don't you try writing? And that's how my first book was. It's literally like it's a children's book. It was a picture book, and it was about 5,000 words. So I think my progress has also been like slowly, growing into, it's not like I wrote a novel right away. So that was my first. And Superdog, which I wrote, was came about a year after that first book, Skinny Scribbles, The Magical
Mm.
Adventures of Skinny Scribbles. And with Superdog, I think I became more and more kind of trying to sort of growing into my writing role more while I continue to be an editor. So by then, always an editor throughout my career. And I was also writing. And so, like a day
Right.
job, and yeah, sort of, which is anyway in
And
India, no one can be full time writer. So you can't afford to
yeah,
be.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
said like there was, you were maybe not very confident. And as writers, we always feel underconfident with our
Yeah.
writing. So, do you have, like, after being in the industry for so many years, what would you say is, a sort of quick trick to break out of that, the lack of confidence that we have?
I think one has to just keep, unfortunately, there's no quick trick. I think one has to just keep writing and keep reading and writing. And uh, if you're sort of reading enough, I think the writing also sort of, I do believe there's no shortcut to it. You do have to
Mhm.
be a big reader to be a writer. So I've always read a lot. And maybe it has helped to be an editor because it's meant that I'm actually able to edit my own writing much better now than I uh, could earlier. In Burnings, I
Mhm.
know that I did a lot of slashing and editing, which was, I think, because sometimes I think you might have gone on to ask me if the two roles of being an editor and writer, how they feed into each other. And I would say
Yeah.
there's a good, in my, at least for me, I found it useful. I mean, uh, yeah, that they sort of go together well.
Yeah, a lot of writers
So
do find it difficult. Yeah, please
yeah,
go on.
I yeah, it is difficult to, also it is more difficult to edit your own work than someone else's, just because you're closer to it. It's you don't like, in fact, it's happened to me that when I see my editor's feedback, it's almost embarrassing. Oh, why didn't I think of it? If it was somebody else's work, I would have noticed these problems. But in my own writing, I often, a lot of things I do miss. So yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not like that. It's not so easy also, but I do have a trained eye for editing, but again, yeah, it's not the same. It doesn't work exactly as it should for my own writing. So
Right.
yeah,
So
uh,
I've noticed that you have, I think, about 10 books out, and
yeah, I
like,
think 8 or maybe 9. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
around.
And there is something about, we get a lot of ideas, like everybody gets ideas all the time. How do you think, how can we choose one idea and like figure out that this is worth developing into a full book? And some ideas
Yeah,
are not that important, or not
yeah.
that worth of a story.
I think what happens is if the idea stays with you for a while. Like I do find that I write quite fast, but it takes me a while to start writing because I think I take some time to, the ideas all going around in my head and which one to address and which one to actually start writing. That takes more time than so I think kind of let the ideas marinate in your head, see which one is calling you more, which one is which talks to
Mhm.
you more, and then just go for that. And when you start writing, I usually have a sense of it's not like I plan my writing very well. It's not like I do the chapterization, but I do have a sense of the beginning and the end when I'm starting out. And so but the thing is, it's not like I haven't abandoned books. I have written 10,000 words, even 15, 20,000 words and abandoned because it just isn't, it's not, I feel like it's not worth publishing at that point. And some I might have even shared with, I do share with a few friends, and you can tell like there's slightly lukewarm response from people. And then you're like, so there's a lot of rejection in writing. I mean, one has to be kind of hard on, like, you have to be tough enough to sort of withstand a lot of rejection to keep going. And, but you have to stay with what you really believe in and then, yeah, try to work on it. And
Right.
yeah. Mm. What
Like,
was the, yeah, what, hmm, I say?
yes. No, I was saying that, as you said, there is no shortcut or anything, and people need
Yeah,
to, at least aspiring writers need to read a lot of books.
yeah,
And so I would like to ask, like, what kind of books you were reading and what influenced you to,
yeah.
start thinking
So,
about writing.
uh, books, I mean, I'm reading something or the other all the time. It's not necessarily related to what I will be writing, of course. But usually, if I'm writing, say, if at the time when I was writing Burnings, that time I would like to stay in that space, like read more horror, so that I kind of, that always helps me that once I've decided on what I'm writing, I do stay within that genre. And
Mm.
reading sort of, I remember that time I read Shirley Jackson, of course, Edgar Allan Poe, um, then some Ligeti, some short stories. Lovecraft. So, and these I was reading as I was writing, and then you sort of it does give you. I mean, I'm not plagiarizing, but it's giving me ideas. I mean, from that, yeah. So the ideas. So it's good for me, at least. I found it works for me to stay in that genre and I've written across genres. So it's not like I've written only like this year more towards horror science fiction, but earlier it's been different things. So whatever been writing, I've tried to be reading around that because I feel that helps. And right now I'm not writing anything, but yeah, okay, yeah,
No, I completely agree with that. And like even I have found that very helpful. Like when I am writing something, like staying in the zone, in that
yeah,
atmosphere of the story, I sort of select the kind of stories
yeah,
that it vibes with, and then I
yeah,
keep reading those stories. That actually helps me to
yeah,
continue writing.
yeah.
Otherwise, I will get lost in some other story.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically, yeah. Although I, of course, I have friends who, I mean, who are writers who say that they don't read at all when they are writing. They find it difficult. They find that they're getting influenced by the style of the writer, whoever they're reading, or it just doesn't sort of help them. So I guess again, everyone's method is different, but yeah, like even, but I also feel that one has to stay in that zone. And it's if
Yeah.
you're reading really good stuff, I mean, in fact, I find it important to read something that's very well written, and so that you feel a bit inspired also that you have some role models in front of you of good writing. And so
Yeah. Actually, like most of our discussions like these, it happens around writing because most of the members who are in our club are actually aspiring writers, and some
yeah,
of our are also published writers. So some questions might be just, around writing.
yeah,
And
and if anyone wants to ask any question, they're welcome, of course. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Mm.
My next
Mm.
question would be, around because I've seen like your books are in the categories of children, and then there is for young adults, and then there is for adults. And now I get the answer that you have been like stepping into one role at a time, and then like it has been a
Mm.
gradual,
Mm.
step up for you. But how do you change how do you switch between the mindsets, like when switching
Yeah.
between the age groups?
Yeah. So yeah, in fact, it's in a way a step up, but it's also not been like it's not like like it's not graded like that. We say Game On is a middle
Right.
grade thing, which I've written after many years. I had my
Yes.
last middle grade novel was many years back. So in between, there have
Mhm.
been adult and young adult fiction. So I'm not sure what made me sort of come back to middle grade, but I do enjoy writing for younger people in a very it's a very different experience from writing for adults because there's a more scope for whimsy, there's more scope for letting and it requires more plotting in a way because when you're writing for adults, the whole thing can be more drawn out and it doesn't have to be so
Mm.
plot driven like it's not necessary always. In
Yeah.
Burnings it is more plot driven but not I mean there is that whole kind of the thoughts and the ideas all that you kind of pontificate, while for children's thing it has to be more precise. You have to make sure you write in a certain you have to keep the attention of the younger reader so you can't be going off in too many tangents. And I kind of I enjoy that too. I enjoy that the demands of different genres come with their own demands and requirements, and it's also interesting to do that, to follow different methods and I mean different how you have to write every in for every genre is different, and it's kind of a good exercise almost in writing. I
Ah,
mean, not like it's
yeah.
of course you have to be drawn to that genre. You have to want to do it, but within that,
Mm.
and it's not very conscious. It's not like I'm sitting down and thinking that okay, now I'm because I'm writing this, I must write in a certain way. It does flow naturally because you know you're going to write. I mean, the vocabulary changes, the style changes depending on
Mm.
what you've chosen to write at that point.
Yeah, it's fascinating how, even though we sort of chase structure but still it comes naturally. That is
Yeah, that's what.
fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. true. But it does happen. I think it kind of happens quite fairly seamlessly
Yeah.
to, yeah, because you know what you want to write at that point, and it kind of, you follow the story almost. Sometimes it does. I like, even for Burnings, it started as I actually wanted to do a retelling. I've always wanted to try retellings, like, because like, you watched all the this, whether it's Shakespeare or Jane Austen, there's always so many retellings happening in
Yes.
cinema and books, and I think that it requires a different sort of skill set. And I thought that I wanted to be sure when I'm ready to do it, because, and so I basically like the idea of taking a story from a certain century, a period, and transferring it to the present moment, because then
Mm-hmm.
the whole how it would work out. So to begin with, that's how I actually, I mean, when I started writing Burnings, I was trying my hand at retelling one of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories, House of Usher, and that's how it
Oh.
started. And so House of Usher is a short story, so I mean, it's a long short story, so it was sort of, so I started with that, but then the book took what should I say, a life of its own. And then also, and then I felt that I wanted to write a novel, not a short story, which is why then I started introducing more characters. And then it kind of, if you're familiar with House of Usher, you'll see the central elements are there from that. Like, there is a bit of incest, there is a mansion, of course, that's all the tropes of the similar tropes. But then I kind of grew out of that story and it became a larger thing. So yeah, one never knows. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't see the earlier question. Yeah.
We will get to the questions
Okay.
like later on. We
Yeah.
have a few questions from our sides as well first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so
So yeah.
like I've seen that there across your books there is like a central theme. For Burnings, we got the answer that you wanted to do a retelling and all. But there have been themes of mental health and identity, or even yeah, there's a book called I think Dadi Forgot or something, and there
Uh,
is a theme of
Dida,
memory.
forgetful Dida. Yeah. Mhm.
Forgetful Dida. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a memory forgetting theme there. So,
Yeah.
um, I mean,
Yeah.
as a reader, we do sort of get the theme at first,
Yeah.
and but as a
Yeah.
writer, how does it happen? Like, do you get the feel of the
Yeah.
theme very early
Mhm.
on, or like it
So
happens
there
later
are,
on?
yeah, this theme of forgetting is there in, if my Mrs. C remembers, it's also an ironical thing, because the Mrs. C has Alzheimer's there. So it's more
Yeah.
to do with forgetting, forgetful Dida. Even if Burnings has a character who has dementia,
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. So actually, my mother has Alzheimer's, which is why I think I was drawn to that I have been drawn to that for a long time. She's had Alzheimer's for 10 years. I mean, not,
Mm.
it's progressed a lot now. But obviously, it was something that was disturbing me, and it was kind of, it was very important part of my life for the last many years. So I find that every time I'm writing, I do gravitate to, and Mrs. C remembers is a very directly addresses talking about a woman who has Alzheimer's. And because also that point, because I was trying to understand the disease more, so I was reading, my reading was also like Still Alice, and there's lots of I was reading and watching a lot that had to do with forgetfulness and Alzheimer's, and trying to understand that. So, uh, so yeah, I think when we write, a lot of whether it's intentional or unintentional, but a lot of what is there in our lives, what's kind of affecting us at that point, it finds its way into your writing. You might fictionalize it. It kind of comes out in different ways, but
Mm.
it's there. It's all the themes are things which obviously are close. I mean, anyone who's exploring any theme will be something that's close to their heart, or something that they feel strongly about. And so that's, I think, that whole where fiction and, again, what is our realities in our
Right.
life, they intersect.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
I have noticed like even though we try to write very about topics which are far, removed from
Yeah.
us, like some way whatever is bothering us does
Yeah.
get inside there.
Yeah. That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
actually,
just a
even
note,
burning, yeah. So,
yeah, about burnings.
no, I was just saying that burnings, I really thought I was going far away from my own personal experiences because I was using, I mean, I was started it as a retelling. But
Mm.
like I said, things which are like that, I did end up putting a character who has Alzheimer's. So things which kind of, I mean, they find their ways of entering
Yeah.
your writing, even if you don't intend to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it kind of enriches the, experience of the writing as well as for readers.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Because yeah,
Yeah.
whatever we are really close to, we kind of have a better understanding and a better able to express it, yeah, to talk about it,
Yeah.
and yeah.
I just wanted to put a note out there that because we have like a 40-minute limit of the meeting recording, we might get kicked out of the meeting after 40-minute ends. So I'll just take the questions from the chat here, and then we will continue when with our questions in the next session.
Okay.
Um, okay, Manisha. Okay, Manisha has a question. Manisha, are there any topics you feel are taboo for a younger audience? Some kind of inbuilt moral compass, maybe.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Usually I like to feel that there should not be taboos because literature is supposed to, that's the whole idea of it's often also, we talk address things which are transgressive, which are difficult, themes which are difficult to talk about. That's what the idea is, to write about everything. But there are certain, I'm sure, there are inbuilt taboos. There are, of course, at one level, some very basic rules, like obviously a book which is for younger people won't be talking about marriage. I mean, because it's just not of interest. It's like things which won't be interesting for them, or so that way the themes will be appropriate for children, more to keep their interest than making it taboo, really. But I don't know if anything is taboo. But yeah, you have, I mean, while uh, so this the whole thing of black and white and good and bad and right and wrong, those things, in especially in adult fiction, that's really can be, you can blur the lines a lot. You can blur the lines for children, but you have to be a little careful, because I mean, I do believe reading has to be for fun. I don't want to, I'm not trying to teach anything to the children. That's, I mean, their school or parents can teach them what they have to. So I'm not keeping. I mean, the idea is enjoyment and pleasure when you're reading, but or even if it's something disturbing, there is a certain kind of. I mean, you sort of want them to understand something that could be. Yeah, it's usually not discussed even. So yeah, I don't believe there's any theme that should be a taboo, but again, you do of course have to keep in mind that you're writing for younger audiences.
Yeah, right. I think that answers one of our questions as well. Um,
Okay.
Next is, do you think there are any technical challenges faced while writing for a minor audience? Like,
uh,
yeah,
Technical.
Choi, can you like elaborate a little bit on this question?
Yeah, so basically, my question would be something drawing from the line of the previous question that Manisha had asked. We understand that there are a lot of limitations uh, in the children fiction or even what children are reading. That is a huge market and a huge controversial state as well. So, also in a way that you said that blurring the lines for children can be difficult. So, while you are writing for a child, you have to think about the language and the sentence construction, the words you use. There are sometimes you can say, I have done this and it resulted into that in a character, and the child will believe, oh, I can do this, and it will result into exactly that. So, in that way, you have to maybe restructure the sentence. And if it was an adult, they would not probably go ahead and do this. But if it is a child, I would have to say that in this world, this is possible, but maybe not in every world. And I have to convey it in that way. So, what are
Yeah,
these
yeah,
technical challenges that are very structurally constrained that you face that we don't talk about much, but while writing,
yeah.
you do experience
Yeah,
those?
actually, yeah, that's interesting. I'm just trying to think. So basically, in the I'm talking about Indian authors who are writing for children in, say, technically for Indian audiences. So I know publishers who, of course, the children's publishers who have told me that when it comes to books that we get from the West, parents are not they're not monitoring, like the expectations are different. It can be much darker, while when it comes to Indian authors, people expect it to be a little softer. I mean, the exposure is, if you look at some of the young adult fiction which is published outside the country, it's much more, uh, it can be much tougher. The topics can be hard, at least earlier. I mean, I think in the last 5 years, a lot of things have started changing in India also. But in the beginning, when we started writing for children, which wasn't done, so one had to keep in mind school, like basically books went to schools. Like the book fairs happened in schools. So then, in fact, one of my books, talking of Muskan, in which Muskan is queer, at that point when I wrote this was 2012, and there was really not, for children, this hadn't really been written. So, and when we were pitching it for book for discussions in schools, a lot of schools, the principals just said no. If this is to do with, we do not discuss such topics in schools, because I mean it might be a good book and all of that, but we also don't want to do it because we think parents might not like it. So Muskan, in fact, I remember I was invited to for the Kalaghoda festival to Bombay, and usually when they invite a children's author, they also organize school events. But I didn't get any school invite because at that, especially this is 2014 or something, and hopefully things have changed by now because it's 10 years back. But that point, they were just no one was very comfortable inviting an author who had written on like on homosexuality, so to say. So those kind of, I don't know if that's not exactly a technicality, but yeah, these are the things which you also like. I wrote the book, my publisher was happy to publish it, but then we realized that yeah, okay, this is something that parents are not happy for their children to read about. So parents do a lot of monitoring for children when it comes to children's literature, and they do it for children as even like 13, 14-year olds who I think should be allowed to decide for themselves. But if parents interfere, then they might not be approving of a lot of things. So yeah, then that has to, I'm not saying that one keeps that in mind as a technicality, but yeah, this is on the ground, these are the problems one
Yeah.
faces.
Yeah, that doesn't come to your mind at the first, like at the top, because at
Yeah,
the end of the day, you're not doing anything particularly that is wrong that you would feel
yeah,
taboo because you're actually just educating. So that
yeah,
is not the something that you would think about.
yeah,
Having said that, I was wondering if you could enlighten more about the structural editorial changes that happens differently because it's a children's book and not a young adults or a little bit grown up audience, like let's say a book for a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old differently than a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old, the structuring and the editing process. Are there any changes? Like, I was always curious because you are someone who has been writing both the side, like that is very
yeah,
rare. It's either one or
yeah,
another. So
yeah.
how do you handle that? And
Yeah, again, because you know which book is what you're writing, so it kind of does happen quite naturally.
organically. Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is, the chapters will be, say, shorter for the
Okay.
younger audiences. Pictures come in, like there is illustrator will be
Mm.
doing, say, it's sort of interspersed
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
illustrations. So that makes a difference. And so those things are, so the structure, that way the page layouts, everything is different, bigger
Hmm.
fonts. So the word count is less for children. I wouldn't say that it's easier to write for children, but it's shorter, the books. And I would say what makes it more difficult is like what I said, you have to pay more attention to plot, because yeah, there has to, I mean, that whole, even from the beginning till the conclusion, with all the like whatever adventures or whatever you're putting in, you do need to there has to be more attention to details in children's literature. But apart from that, yeah, I mean, again, you have, I mean, one does read across genres and across age group, books for different age groups. So it's sort of, yeah, organically, one does fall into certain patterns because you know which age group you're writing for. And even when I write for children's books, I do stay in that, again, what I was saying, to stay in that zone, I would be reading children's books at that point.
Hmm.
I didn't do it so much for Game On, but earlier I used to do it very rigorously. In the case of Game On, I was staying more in the zone of, because it's a bit of science fiction, so in that zone. But yeah, I wasn't reading uh, that age group book like this. It's a book for 8 to 11-year-olds. I think I wasn't really paying attention to that so much, but it does happen naturally. It comes, the vocabulary, all of that. It's not about, you're not dumbing down, but you're kind of keeping it keeping in mind your
Interesting. Yeah.
audience.
Thank you for saying that. That line was very important. It's not about dumbing down, it's
Yeah,
about keeping in range with them.
yeah.
That is very rare, and I don't think a lot of people pay attention to this kind of a thought process right now. So it's
I find it
really
very.
great
I
coming
also
from people like you.
personally, personally, it's important to me also. Yeah, because it's very annoying that a lot of people do assume that writing for children is much easier,
Yes.
and which
Hmm.
is not really true. It
No,
can
not at
take
all.
less time, but it is not like easier. And it kind of, there is this, even in publishing, there is a, like, it's a lower for it's, when it comes to, it's given less attention. Like if you look at awards, there's more awards for adult writing.
Yes.
Everything is, there's
Mhm.
more for adult writing, which is yeah, yeah, it is tougher in many ways, because also I'm an adult. It's easier for me to write for people, uh, for for an audience that I know, which is me. I mean, and childhood is something like you have to really also, like the dumbing down. Also, you have to make sure you're not. You have to, because I'm not really a young person right now, so to know what they want, and so that's also sort of, you have to kind of try to figure that out. And because times have changed. I mean, the kind of literature we read as children uh, was very different. Like the Enid Blyton, and which I think a lot of kids don't read anymore. So the kind of authors children read now has also changed over the years. So and it's not like I still read a lot of children's literature. So just to know how the way children think and behave and to keep that in mind and write, is it's harder as an adult to write for an audience that is not me.
I just wanted to say that I loved the way your career trajectory has worked till now, the whole
Yeah.
teaching and editing and wanting to publish, mostly because that has also been my trajectory as of now. And hopefully, I will get into publishing and get published as well.
Yeah.
So this gives me hope.
Yeah.
Having said that, I have a lot of interest in your working as an editor because you have worked with a lot of important influential companies which has a lot of different type and flavor of writing, and you understand as an author the relationship between an editor and an author and how it impacts an author. We also have noticed in our groups during our discussions, uh, a lot of people were a little bit hesitant towards approaching freelance editors or even publishing houses, thinking they were intimidating, or if they were not intimidating, then they were probably cheating. So there is a gap somewhere in
Yeah.
between of trust and information. And on the basis of that, we had a few questions,
Yeah.
starting with what is the aspect of your experience as an editor
Yes.
in any publishing house has changed your approach towards your own writing? Has it have any impact?
Yeah. No, what you said earlier, what you started by saying about how publishing does seem, I know, inscrutable a little to outsiders. And you do feel, but the thing is, when the problem with the industry is that the processes are not very well, it's not a corporate kind of setup in most publishing houses, even if it's an MNC publisher. So the thing is, it's very often when you're not hearing from them, it's just that the editors have a lot of emails coming in. They don't, it just slips under the radar more than a conscious decision or not to respond, is what I've seen. And especially in the last 1.5 years, I've not been in publishing, so I can see the difference, because I mean, I'm on the other side right now in a way, because I'm doing more freelance things. And yeah, publishing is a lot, it's kind of confusing. The way we work is like not very, it's not very process driven. So it can get, so it might be intimidating if you're on the other side, but I think it's just more, it's just the whole thing is a little too casual. So if you're lucky, then people are the editor suddenly gets back. But sometimes they just forget to get back almost. Internships, it just depends. At one point, maybe you've written to a publishing house when they've suddenly that day they've decided, oh, we should have an intern. So then they might just get back to you. It's not done in a very, which is what I've especially realized now because I've been working with other spaces where it is much more organized. So then I find that it's in a way more comfortable to take on projects because then things get done more meticulously and properly. But that's just okay. This is not very comforting to, not something that is very good to say, but this is how it really is. Yeah, but you were asking, sorry, the question was, I just, because I got carried away saying this. Yeah.
No, that is fine. That is also something very important we needed to know. We basically wanted to know what kind of influence it had on your writing, if it had any influence,
Yeah. So,
like as your career as a writer.
yeah, I think of course, being in an editor did mean that I was already comfortable with the publishing space in India. So it wasn't something that was. I'm sure it's harder to break in if you're not already when you're a complete outsider. So that way it was comfortable in some ways, but it also, on the other hand, it is also too familiar. So it's like all day I'm reading manuscripts and other people's writing. So and then to go home and again write. And in fact, I remember one book, again talking of Muskan, when I was writing it, at that time I received a manuscript which was very similar to what I was writing, which was very confusing because I wrote to the writer saying, I mean, that, I just want, and I knew her luckily. It was a person who had already published in the children's space called Payal Dhar. And I told her that, this is really strange because your book has many similarities to my book, which is which was already a slightly, like, it was already written, but hers was, as in, it was already about to be published, my book. But it was almost like telling her that, she shouldn't think that I got my ideas from hers. So these were strange little. These can be this. I mean, of course, this is not a common problem, but this specifically happened to me. But apart from that, in some ways I would say it's also, like I said, because I'm used to editing, and it does help to constantly have be in that. So a lot of people say, if you're an engineer and you're writing in, like, you're also a writer, I suppose your work and your writing, they're very removed from each other, what you do for a living, and the writing becomes more like a hobby, which is it kind of takes you away from your day job. Here, what
Yeah.
I was doing wasn't taking me away from my day job. It was a continuation of that. So in that way, when but also distinct. I have to say at the same time that it didn't, because when you're writing, again, you're writing, and it doesn't really matter. Other things don't matter. Like, as writers, you will all know, you enter a different zone when you're writing.
No.
So which doesn't, yeah, then it becomes apart from everything else in your life.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, because obviously there are certain work in life that take in the zone, it's difficult to come back. But this is
Yeah,
something that keeps you there, if not like 1 foot away from the doors, that sort of thing.
yeah.
Having said that, the next question would be, what would be your suggestion as an editor to the budding authors who obviously find it intimidating to pitch their work? How should they do it? And at what stage of writing should they start thinking about investing in a good editor or like pitching it to agents and
Yeah.
editors?
Yeah, so you have to, like, I know Pratusha recently got a short story published. So those kind of things is a good idea. As in, if you can, I know there will be a lot of rejections, but if you keep pitching, and so because short stories is something, it's a good idea to start with that. So then you start, like, you have something in your CV, in your little kitty, which is, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but I'm just saying that could be one of the things. So, you have to know when now the first draft, and whether you should be going to, and when are you ready to go to an agent. I mean, I guess you'll have to figure that out for yourself, and you have to have those, of course, 3 chapters which you're very satisfied with. You have to be, because like the publisher, as I said, they keep receiving manuscripts every day. So if
Mhm.
whatever you're sending, it has to be very good. It can't be a first draft and you have to make sure you've polished it, and maybe after writing, give yourself a break, go back to it. You'll find many little things. One thing we all do is overwrite a lot. I mean, that I realize more and more, because you tend to say you tend to say the same thing in many ways. You have to be a bit ruthless with yourself also. Sometimes something you I mean, sometimes I feel like I've written this sentence very well, so but you have to think very clearly, but is it required? I mean, even if it's seems like a good sentence, so you have to learn to edit your own work also, I think, and that is very important. So once you feel like, basically what a publishing house or an agent is looking for is 3 chapters and they need to know that you've got the whole plot in place, and when you send that letter, that should be very much to the point. Don't I mean, there's one thing I remember you have to sort of just mention the basics, that 2 lines to describe what the book is about. Just you are a whatever you are, like I'm a student who's whatever, or I'm working in this space. So keep it minimal, because the publisher doesn't like have the mind space to read too much. It has to be very crisp. Don't try to act too, like, even don't try to be too funny or too, like, don't try to grab that attention. You can just keep it direct, and so that they just get an idea of the book, and um, without it's a good idea sometimes to be able to mention some other book in that space, like what we call comp titles, actually comparative titles. So if you say you feel like your book is something like Sally Rooney's, so you can, I mean, you don't have to say, oh, I'm as good as Sally Rooney, but you say that the sort of, this is the space that I'm occupying is along the lines of this kind of a book is what I'm writing, this sort of a book. So theme, and yeah, and what you think, um, yeah, the theme, a basic idea of the theme and the ideas that you have in your book, and then yeah, then after that you just have to hope that they get back. But the thing is, I have to say, this is again on the negative side, is that there is really, the space for fiction is shrinking, and it's shrinking really bad. Like, I've seen it shrink over the last whatever number of years I've been in publishing. Earlier, like even in Bloomsbury, which is where I was about what 8 years back, I used to do at least 10 to 12 books, which were fiction. And in my last year in Scholas in Simon and Schuster, I think I did 4 titles, 4 books of fiction, just because fiction, while it's a publisher, it's just somehow doesn't sell as much. It can be for branding. It can get, if it gets on some award list, if it gets some attention for some other reason, something, some hook there is. But mostly it's hard, because it's very, so it's not always a reflection of, unfortunately, it's not always a reflection of your writing ability when those rejections come or whatever. But it's just because if you think of a publisher, like if I can only select 4 books in a year, so even if your book is out of 100, it's the 10th book for me. I mean, whatever, it's ranks high with me, but I still might not be able to publish it. So, and that's for anything really. Even, and now I'm working with short stories and all more. It's that final list is like, it's so short compared to, like, say, if I've loved 20 of the stories. I'm working with the Bombay Literary Magazine now. So the submissions they receive is 400 short stories, out of which you're finally publishing 8 or 10. Like, even, and so the amount of, like, constant shortlisting in so many stages, it's hard. It's hard to get noticed. So for that, I mean, that, of course, I can just say good luck, but yeah, and that it's hard. So it's not too, like, I just want to say that you shouldn't question yourself, like, be too full of self-doubt, because it is a difficult space. So even if you're great, it does take a long time to break in, which I know this doesn't sound very comforting, but it's a reality. And so you have to be really thick-skinned about it and keep going.
Yeah. So would you suggest that we like send our stories repeatedly, like not repeatedly in the sense every week or something, like maybe for 2, 3 issues back to back if the theme or anything matches,
Yeah.
so that
You,
it get noticed, because maybe in the previous pile it
yeah.
was not, it was a 10, but in this pile it's a 5. So
Yeah, it
would that
actually
be
that I've
suggested?
also, yeah, that's very true, and that I've noted, because now I've been working on these short stories. So this was my first time with them, but they are all familiar with. So they said, "Oh, this is the they felt we feel bad to reject. This is the fourth time this person has submitted, and every time it's been good, but it's just missing it by a few, like a
Hmm.
margin." So we were in fact thinking on like maybe hopefully the person will submit again, because this time it's like
Hmm.
literally missed by two. But the thing is, one has to be rigorous. So if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
feel for
that's
whatever reason, and there are many editors, so it's like I'm doing what. So again, that luck factor comes in, because it depends on, say, if I might be liking a story, but it might not speak to someone else in the same way. So it depends on who, which. So writing again has that element of luck, which is in the personal taste of the
yeah,
person who's reading. My reading taste, if I'm in the first round, it has to appeal to my reading taste
yeah,
also. So otherwise, I'm pushing it aside.
yeah.
So all that, I mean, I feel, but I do again feel that if you keep at it, and if you're really like you have to keep going, it will happen. I mean, at some degree of it will happen. I think somebody was putting I could see one question coming about, I had no idea that it's so, what was that?
Yeah, I think it was Pratyusha saying that because we consume so much fiction, and fiction is
Yeah,
basically what we consume. Like our head cannot process, like even in my few sessions or workshops that I attend, when I hear that trade publishing occupies like 90% of our market right now, I go, excuse me, what?
yeah,
People read
that's true.
biographies, they are not reading
Yeah,
fantasy. It blows my mind because
yeah.
I have literally brought out my entire cupboard and it's 95% fiction.
I
So it
personally,
cannot process
yeah,
mind.
yeah, even same. I mean, honestly, even despite knowing it, I am personally a fiction reader. So I have taught myself to edit non-fiction and be
Yeah,
interested in it. And I kind of, because I've been in the industry for so long, so I know the trends, I know what to
yeah,
publish. But yeah, my first love will always be fiction. But I've
yeah,
noticed a lot of people have this whole approach to, oh, imagination, it's a story, as opposed to they want knowledge and information. They have to have like
yeah.
something relevant. A lot of
Yes.
readers, they look down on fiction, like opposite of us, really. I mean, so there's, and I think we, like, people who like to read, they kind of gravitate towards each other, which is why we
Yeah.
don't realize that a large percentage of
There
people are
they
actually
exist.
yeah,
It's
they
like
exist, and
out of the world.
yeah, and they think you're slightly like,
Yeah, like
they think
you
you're inferior
exist
for,
too. You are
yeah.
still there.
Yeah. Imagination. Oh, you like made up stories. Someone said you like made up
Yeah,
stories. I'm like,
made
yeah.
up
I mean, what
stories.
does that mean even? I think there's a much greater connection to reality that fiction can actually have, because, I mean,
Yeah.
than
Yeah,
anything else.
obviously. I totally believe that. I mean, I would
Yeah.
rather trust a fiction book over a biography because I think people can hide in more information there
Yeah.
that people will like, okay, cannot put this in biography. I will get
Yeah.
like sued or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could rant about it because talking to you is so
Yeah.
comfortable and it feels almost like sitting and having
Yeah.
this adda. It's not an
You know,
interview. So,
I need to charge. One sec, I'll get my
oh,
charger. I just
okay,
realized
okay,
my
sure,
phone
sure,
was
sure,
going. Yeah.
sure. We are in checking. I'm gonna send Janan's question over here as well because that way I will remember.
I can see it, the question. I thought it will disappear,
Oh,
but
I'm
It did not?
chat.
That is so great. I
no.
cannot see it. No, I just see Varsha's message. I'm
Yeah.
just sending it nevertheless. Anywho, I think you
Yeah.
see it because you are like hosting it from there. Yeah. We will just quickly wrap up this question and then we can obviously carry on with the conversation if we have time.
Yeah.
Another question that we had on our Kitty was, what is a red flag, or what is the biggest red flag, do you think, as an editor or someone who is receiving a lot of writing, that
Yeah.
immediately cuts the book off, like the manuscript goes into a rejection pile?
Yeah.
Is there something, some
Um,
pointers that we need to keep in mind so that we don't
yeah,
make those?
that, yeah. For children's, I know there are a lot of people tend to say that my nephew and niece loved the book. That doesn't work. I mean, we don't really care because then you feel like you're just personally selling your thing. Like someone will say that I tell a lot of stories to my family, whatever, and they love it. But family, you don't reference that at all. You leave these kind of personalized references out, which is why I said it's best to keep it as direct and to the
Hmm.
point as possible. Because humor, sometimes if I'm like I like to be a little funny also, but the thing is, yeah, sometimes humor might not land well. So it's best to just keep it as direct as possible. And any other red flags? I'm just. mm, It's just that you have to make sure there are no typos, of course, in your because you're a writer. So if I mean, I can also have a typo, but I know it's something that you notice in an email that's come in from an author. Then you just like,
No.
no, this is like not some those
Yeah,
kind of
that
little
is.
careless kind of mistakes. You really have to make sure you don't have. It's not like if I love the 3 chapters you've sent, I would still be interested, but yeah, but if that email itself is kind of more important than one imagines, where
Okay.
you're when you're kind of saying that I'm whoever and I've written this and this is my work experience, this is my thing, and yeah,
Hmm.
about my
Thank
book. Yeah.
you.
Mm.
Uh, we will gravitate a little towards asking you about the idea of community. So here, we obviously, our book club was brought into reality because of the idea that authors, the readers, read differently than someone who is reading to be able to write. Uh,
Yeah.
so when you are reading as an author or a writer, you see things more deeply, you understand. It's not just like a literary scholar who is dissecting a piece or a reader who is just simply enjoying it. It's a
Yeah.
mix of both. And there are also other nuanced aspect to it. So we have seen a lot of small communities grow in this philosophy. So we have seen that there is a huge shift happening right now in the market as well, of beta reading and alpha reading and communities coming together, that being the pivotal point for marketing, etc., etc. In this change, since you are involved in publishing as well as you are an author who is trying to publish and go into like market your own book, how what do you think this community concept plays a role in these kind of writing activities or in the career of an author,
Mm.
and the importance of an alpha beta reader? How does one author, emerging one, chooses this kind of readers for their projects?
So I know this is a I'm not very sure exactly how it works because again this is a new thing which I've not been part of
Okay.
these groups, but I have to say that I also feel like they're really useful. It's because only in the last 1.5 years I've again realized how much of this exists. Because when I was in the publishing industry, actually don't we don't have time to sort of
Mhm.
notice these uh, kind of changes happening. But the thing is, I think it's a great thing. Maybe it's because everything's so online now that these groups have got
Yeah.
created, and I think it can only improve your writing. That if you have because that's the whole problem of being too like you're just sitting in one corner and writing and you're getting no feedback. This is how
Hmm.
like say you write a like what we were doing 10 years back was just sitting and writing the full novel and then sharing it. And by then it's too late to even improve it. So I think it's great if you have a reading community where you're sharing things where you should be reasonably honest with each other. Again, the problem of I think something like writing is the personal taste. So you
Hmm.
have to get that balance. You do want that feedback, but you also do want to your voice or whatever you want that also has to be preserved. Because I
Yeah.
also find that sometimes I mean so at some level like edits are very important, but are you okay with getting edits from everyone? I mean, or you might have an idea for my book which I think is good, but I might not want to carry it out. So those are the things which you have to
Yeah.
like work out for yourself. It's not like even, but I would say that whatever, if you have a people who are giving you
Hmm.
feedback, you must think about it a bit seriously. I mean, not to be dismissive of any feedback. I mean, all feedback should be considered, I mean, weighted, and then you decide whether you want to incorporate it or not. Because I think as writers, we can also be a bit sensitive sometimes to like to ideas which are being floated to us, and you feel like, because you know how much effort you've put into writing something, so you feel like, okay, somebody just dismissed it or whatever, then it just because like I remember, but but yeah, but the thing is, from a first draft to a last draft, there can be a huge change in any book, and I think that's also very important, and it's something to, I mean, it's not something that one should resist. One shouldn't feel that, okay, now I feel it's perfect, because when you send it out, you do feel it's perfect, but it won't still be. I mean, of course, there must be a rare author whose book doesn't need editing, but mostly it does need editing, and it does. And so, in a way, it's good that you have these communities where you're getting that, because with editors, what happens is when you send it to a publishing house, they either reject or they accept. They don't really, at that point, they're not giving you, or they will give you that feedback after they've accepted. But you need somebody to help you improve that initial draft. That is, I mean, it's something that if you have that community, I think that's great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. Lastly, what is the first, if someone is to start reading your book, your writing, what is the book you suggest they should start with? And are you writing something currently that we could look forward to? I mean, you don't have
Yeah,
to
I'm
give
not.
too much information if you don't want to, but
No,
just
actually, I'm
a
not
little bit hint.
writing. Yeah, I think I've written. I am like, oh yeah, I'm writing something, but that's very different. It's I'm co-writing something with someone else who is a kind of interesting project, but it's a long. I mean, it's not like it's a secret, but yeah, it would take some
Oh,
more time, so I'm not going into it. But if
okay.
you say which of my thing is that one tends to be a more like at this point, I do want people to read Burnings more, because it's my last book. I mean, Game On is of course children's, so it's mostly
Yeah.
adults would want to read adult books. So I would say Burnings. But interestingly, I have to say, because of Burnings, a lot of people have started reading Mrs. C Remembers. That's what my publisher said, that they
Hmm.
find that there was because this was selling, so that has also been selling. But of course, all my books have been very different from each other. Some reason I've not been able to stick to one style and whatever. So it's not like any of them are very representative of me. But yeah, I think maybe because it's a more latest one for me, I would like people to read Burnings.
Okay. We have a little tiny fun session of rapid fire, and then we would go forward with the other questions
And
that
did I
are.
see answer all the questions, because I'm not
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
them.
yeah. Yeah. We have
Yeah,
punched a
okay,
few questions and we have actually gone
okay.
off script because we wanted to know so much more. As personally, I have a lot more question, but I really don't
Uh,
think it would be professional enough to go on ranting about in an interview. It would be like a misuse of this whole
no, not really, but
capacity
yeah, I
that we
guess
have
the
created.
time is, yeah.
Yeah. So in our rapid fire session, we will ask you a small question that you have to answer really quickly from the top of your mind.
I'm really
Um,
bad at that. Okay, I'm telling you already, but okay, I'll just say whatever comes to my
okay,
mind. Yeah.
maybe you can try.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your biggest pet peeve as an editor?
Um, uh, Pet peeve as an editor is grammar. I mean, if
Okay,
yeah,
makes
if the
sense.
grammar,
Totally
yeah,
makes
then
sense.
it just lose interest. Yeah.
Mm. One piece of writing advice you would ignore if you had to. You would not
Mm.
take it, you would ignore it.
Ugh. Like I would say, what we're talking about, you have to keep, you have to keep, or you have to keep a reader in mind while writing. I don't believe that I want to write for myself and then
Oh, wow.
think of the reader.
Nice.
No, that's not
Which
good advice. I mean, that's not, I mean, you should keep the reader in mind, but I know I tend to feel that it's very important as an, anyways, it's a rapid fire. I'm not, I just have to go
Yeah,
into
sure.
it.
No, no, carry on. Like you say your piece, it's fine.
Yeah. No,
But yeah,
yeah,
no, I like that idea more because why not? Like I am writing, it's
yeah,
my story. Then we can think about the
yeah,
details.
yeah.
Yeah. Which one would you prefer, a talking cat or a talking dog?
Okay, actually, cat. I'm very familiar with dogs, so I think I should go for cat. Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun. What's
Mm.
more fun, writing for children, YA, or adults?
Actually, YA is the most interesting. Mm.
Or one book that you will recommend to us?
I'm I'm reading Loneliness of Sunny and Sonia, which I'm really loving.
Okay.
Which is like Kiran Desai is the one which has won
Okay.
the
Yeah,
Booker.
yeah, yeah.
Not won the Booker, it was on the shortlist. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. With that, our official session for this Author Adda has ended, and we will take more audience question now. I would just ask the two questions that are in the chat box. Varsha Bhatt wants to ask, when you have a new book idea, do you know from the beginning which audience category it would be for, or do you decide based on how you develop the story? And how do you switch
Mm.
between writing and editing mindset? Like, how do you control, I
Yeah.
think, the editor in you while writing?
Yeah. Yeah. I do know in the no, usually I decide the category, like the age group first. It's
Okay.
because also, yeah, it depends on the theme. And so I know, say, when I started writing Game On, I knew I was writing for middle grade. And if I'm burnings also, so immediately, like even within the first paragraph, you know the audience. So yeah, after saying that I write for myself, but yeah, I do know the audience. Yeah. Yeah. You have to know your audience actually. Yeah.
And
And the other question,
how do you keep the mindset of an editor away from your writer self while you are writing?
yeah, actually, it's important to do that also because I keep like I know for me it's hard. So both tend to feed into each other because they're both very much part of my life. But it's important to keep it away because yeah, otherwise it's unending. Because if I keep trying to make it like my editor self coming into my writer self, it becomes a hitch pitch. Yeah.
Another question is from Janant. While writing, how do you finalize the name of the characters? Because it really intrigued me and at the same time confused me as well sometimes while reading Game On.
Yeah, Game On, I agree with you. Even I'm not very sure. I'm not very happy with the names in retrospect because I chose them in a very random way. I, uh, we had these neighbors when I was young called Bobby, Simi, Sammy, and two girls and a boy. I made the dog Bobby in this, and I reversed the genders. So more for my own fun thing, I reverse the genders where Simi, see, I've already again forgotten. Simi is the girl. No, boy, yeah. Simi is the boy, but in the boy, I kind of did that thinking that it's a fun thing to do. Why try to like associate a name with a certain gender? Why not just have fun with that? Which is how I wrote this. But after a point when I was reading it now, also I was thinking it's confusing. The two names are too similar, and somehow you imagine that Simi should be the girl, but it's actually Sammy is the girl. So it was confusing for me also. When I was writing it, it did not strike me. So this is a flaw in my book. I wouldn't say that it was a great idea. I was just experimenting with trying to think of gender neutral names, but and I think I just yeah, I uh, don't shouldn't admit to flaws so easily, but yeah, in a published book, but yeah.
I think I haven't read the book yet, but that sounds really fun. Like trying to identify. I mean, that is very engaging for a child as well. Like, what is she trying to say? Because we need them to think, we need them to
Yeah.
question.
So it's a
So
bit,
that can work for
actually,
that
more
as
than
well.
anything, it gets confusing when you're reading, is what I
Okay.
realize now, because Simish is the boy and Sammy is the girl,
Good.
and Bobby is the dog. So the thing is, it's somehow the names are too similar, so you have to pay
Yeah.
attention to who's speaking when. I should have
Yeah.
just taken some more obvious names, which were boy, girl.
We have a few more minutes. We can take a few more questions from the audience if you have any. It can be on anything. Um, but obviously related to Himanjali's career. So we
Mm.
keep on track with that. Anything else? You can just switch on your mic and speak at this point or drop your question, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Meanwhile, I just want to say, even I would recommend, Burnings by Himanjali
Thank you.
because it's really good. And like I do, I kind of try to find coincidences and stuff. Me and Himanjali
Yeah.
met in a hill station. This book is set in a hill station. I am currently in a hill station.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
have been listening about this for the last few months that I should read this book and I
uh,
haven't, which is a very bad coincidence. I should.
No, I
yes,
really
please read
enjoyed
Herbal.
Yeah.
reading this book. Like it was
Uh,
unputdownable.
oh,
And
I'm so
Yeah.
glad.
like once
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I think we don't have any more question. It was lovely talking to you, Himanjali. Wish I could have just
Yeah.
ranted on and annoyed you a little bit
Even
more
I
because
feel like I'm also
honestly,
ranting. Yeah.
believe me, the questions I'm
Feels
holding
good.
on to is
Hmm.
just because I know it will be very unprofessional to keep on asking questions at this
Well, I'm a
point.
bit curious, but okay.
I will,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, like, I will find a way to put those questions
Yeah.
and bring it up to you someday.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe next time we have an interview or
Yeah.
even before that. Uh,
For sure.
yeah, okay. So
Thank you,
Manisha says
Manisha.
thank you.
Yeah.
It was such a lovely session. Seriously, it was very different from most of the other sessions that we have because mostly because of the amount of experience
Thank
that you
you.
have in your kitty. Like there were so many things that we could learn about. It was a broad aspect of learning at this point. Thank you so much for giving us your time and entertaining our
Yeah.
questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that was great fun. It was a literary adda, so to say,
Yeah,
more
we
than
try
a
to keep it an Adda based thing so
yeah.
that, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, Adda is where everything can happen. You can talk about
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
that is how we try to keep it.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you all of
And
you.